Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this is my yearly PSA video about summertime care for your chinchilla.
Here comes the sun, here comes the sun.
Because it is starting to get rather hot and it is the most dangerous time for a chinchilla. So I'm just going to go through some do's and don'ts for summertime care. Do. If you don't have air conditioning in your household, which most places in the UK don't, then I would recommend getting a portable aircon unit. Although these are rather pricey, they're like £300, I would highly recommend them. It is the safest way to keep your chinchilla cool. If you do get one, just bear in mind that you need an open window for the ventilation pipe to go out of, because it's going to expel hot air from that unit. It needs to expel it somewhere that's outside of the room. So just bear in mind you're going to need to have a window open throughout the day if you use one of these for the ventilation pipe to go through. Don't use fans for chinchillas, they just don't work. You might think they work, but they really don't for a chinchilla. They're completely ineffective and have very little benefit to them. And yeah, they just don't work, so just don't use them. Do use granite slabs or marble slabs or chinchilla coolers. These are a really good way of keeping your chinchilla cold. I personally use granite chopping boards and I put them in the freezer, and then a couple of hours later I'll take them out. It gives them a nice cool area to actually lay in if they get too hot. Don't handle your chinchillas in hot weather. Now I'm not talking about picking them up and putting them in a carry case. For example, if you need to clean your chinchilla's cage, that's absolutely fine. I'm talking about handling them for any longer than a few seconds, and this is because handling a chinchilla actually increases their body temperature because they're getting the heat off of you. So that, in combination with the heat of the air, is going to be disastrous. So just don't do it. In really hot weather, try to avoid handling your chinchilla. Do use other items to keep your chinchilla cool. For example, you can put vegetable cans or tins in freezers and then wrap them up once they've been in there for a few hours in like a fleece or a thin material, and then put them in the chinchilla's cage, and they can rest on them, they can go up to them, and it can keep them cool. Don't have your chinchilla out for playtime during hot weather. It's a recipe for disaster. They can get exhausted and they can get heat stroke very easily, and heat stroke can in fact lead to death quite easily. If you've got a house that is air conditioned and it is really maintained at a nice temperature for your chinchilla, then of course you can let them out. But if you've got like what we've got in the UK, which is not much in the way of air conditioning, and maybe the only air conditioning you have is a portable aircon unit. Aircon units are good, but they're not going to keep the temperature at a really cold level. So it's best just to avoid having them out for playtime when it is hot. Do give your chinchillas dust baths. Now with me, I actually put the dust in a container in the freezer, and then I will get it out for the chinchillas, and the chinchillas can roll around in nice cold dust, and it helps to keep their temperature down. Don't have a wheel in your chinchilla's cage during hot weather. Now if you live in a place that's completely air conditioned and it's decent air conditioning, you can probably get away with keeping a wheel in the cage. But if you've got a portable aircon unit or no aircon at all, then I would highly recommend taking the wheel out, because any over exercise can cause issues with your chinchilla in the heat. Do find the coolest room for your chinchilla to be in. For example, if you haven't got air conditioning and one of your rooms is much cooler than the others, for example, some people have basements. My coolest room in my house is the bathroom. If you can put your chinchilla in the coldest room in the house, it's going to help them. Do get reflectors for your windows. So these are things that you can buy that are kind of like silver reflectors, a little bit like emergency blankets. They will keep the temperature out of your house by reflecting the heat away. So they are really good for chinchillas. You have them on cars as well sometimes to keep a car cool in the summertime. They'll have a silver kind of reflector thing on the window. Similar sort of concept. You can block out some of that heat coming into your house. Don't ignore the signs that your chinchilla may be suffering from heat. Now, some clear indications that your chinchilla may be suffering with the heat are red ears. So this is more visible with chinchillas that are beige or light coloured like whites, because they naturally have pink ears, so it's easier to see when they've gone really red. It will look like lots of red veins on their ears, and this is where they're trying to expel some of that heat through their extremities. So they will pump all that blood to their ears in order to try and cool themselves down and get that heat out of their blood. Now, with grey chinchillas that have grey ears, it's a little bit more tricky to see, but if you look closely, you will be able to see those veins. It's just more obvious with whites and beiges, but say you will still be able to see those veins in the ears even with grey chinchillas. Another thing is lethargy. So if your chinchilla becomes very lethargic and doesn't want to move, or is perhaps laying on their sides. Now, I know that chinchillas lay on their side anyway from time to time. A lot of my chinchillas do this. You can just tell from the way their body is that they are struggling with their heat. Another sign that your chinchilla may be suffering with heat is really difficulty breathing. This can be a clear indication that they are suffering with heat stroke, and especially if they don't want to move as well. That's very dangerous indeed. They start to have fits and seizures. This is a clear indication that there could be a problem with the heat, and that is when you need to go to your vet, because at that stage your chinchilla probably is suffering with heat stroke. Now, heat stroke can come on very quickly, and it often is deadly. So really important to look out for those signs and not ignore any of them. If you see your chinchilla has really red ears, then maybe think to yourself, right, how can I keep my chinchilla cool? Obviously it's too hot in here for them. Okay, so I think the way I'm going to leave this video is just to say, if you think it's too hot for you, imagine how your chinchilla is feeling. They have a huge thick fur coat that they can't remove, and it must be unbearable for them. So I can tell you now, this Friday, when it's going to be particularly hot in the UK, I will hear this comment so many times, and that is, oh my gosh, it's too hot, I don't like this, the heat is too hot. You know, oh, I like the sun, but I don't like it this hot, this heat is unbearable. Now, if they're saying that, and they don't have this thick fur coat, they can remove garments, they have ways of keeping themselves cool. Imagine how a chinchilla feels. It must be absolutely unbearable and quite torturous for that chinchilla. So that's why I say to people when they say, oh, they don't need aircon, no, they do. They really do. But I understand if you can't afford it, try other ways to keep your chinchilla cool. But honestly, I would always try and invest in aircon. It's the safest and easiest way to keep your chinchilla at a comfortable temperature. So I hope you found this video informative, and I shall see you in another video soon. Goodbye.